So, what if you could save a little bit of energy every single time you search the web? I'm not talking about any complex tricks, just by changing your screen color from white to black. That is the really fascinating idea behind a search engine called Blackle.
And, this isn't some tiny claim. If you go to Blackwell's homepage, there's a run-in counter of the energy it supposedly saved, over 10 megawatt hours. Now, to put that into perspective, that's enough energy to power an average home for an entire year. That is a huge, impressive number. So how is that even possible?
Okay, so what exactly is Blackle? Well, it was launched way back in 2007 by a guy named Toby Heap, and it's basically just a custom Google search with one big trick up its sleeve, a black background. The whole idea is super simple. Displaying black pixels should use less power than displaying white ones.
Which, of course, brings us to the core question here. How on earth can a simple color choice, something that feels like it's just for looks, have such a massive impact on how much energy we use? To really get that, we have to go back to the one idea that started this whole thing.
You see, this whole concept didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was actually sparked by a single, pretty powerful calculation that made a very, very bold promise. And this is it. This is the origin story, a blog post from 2007 by a site called EcoIron. The author ran the numbers and figured that if a huge site like Google switched to a black background, it could save a staggering 750 megawatt hours every single year. This one post was the direct inspiration for Blackle. But here's the absolutely crucial detail. That whole calculation, that entire 750 megawatt hour promise, was based on a specific kind of screen technology, the cathode ray tube monitor. Yeah, remember those big, heavy, boxy monitors that used to sit on everyone's desk? That's what we're talking about. And that is where we find the problem.
So, as brilliant as the idea seemed at the time, its core logic kind of had a built-in expiration date, and it was tied directly to the very technology it was based on.
Okay, here's the technical breakdown. On an old CRT monitor, making the color black was easy. The electron gun just didn't fire at those pixels. They were literally turned off, so less work meant less power. Simple enough, right? But modern LCD screens, the ones we all use now, they work completely differently. They have a backlight that is always on. To make the color black, the screen's liquid crystals have to twist to actively block that light. The backlight is still running, and the pixels are still doing. And this creates a really central problem, doesn't it? The energy-saving trick that totally worked for the tech of the past doesn't really seem to apply to the tech of the present, which leads us to the obvious question. Does the claim still hold up today? Well, as you might guess, the folks behind Blackle weren't the only ones thinking about this. A bunch of different organizations and researchers started taking a closer look at the claim, especially as LCD screens started taking over everywhere. And the counterarguments, they came from some pretty credible sources. I mean, there was a study on monitor energy use as early as 2001 that had already highlighted the difference. The U.S. Department of Energy weighed in through its Energy Star program, and most notably, Google itself decided to address the idea. Get this, in August of 2007, the very same year Blackle launched, Google put out a post on its official blog, and the title says it all. Is black the new green? In the post, they acknowledged the theory but also confirmed that for modern LCDs, the savings were minimal, if they even existed at all. So the very company whose search technology powers Blackle was casting doubt on its core premise. So after looking at the original promise and the reality of modern tech, where do we land on this? What's the final takeaway from this whole story? Okay, so here's the bottom line. The idea behind Blackle was actually pretty clever, and for the technology of its time, those old CRT monitors, it was totally sound. But technology moved on. For the vast majority of us using LCD screens today, that energy-saving claim is disputed by researchers, by government agencies, and even by Google itself. And all of that leaves us with one final, really fascinating question. If the whole energy-saving argument is pretty much a relic of the past for most of our screens, then why are dark modes more popular now than ever? You see it everywhere, right? From our phones to our apps. Well, the answer, it turns out, might have less to do with saving the planet's energy and a whole lot more to do with saving something else: our eyes.